Do you need a pillow or anything?
I'm good.
Okay.
Oh my god, I love Christmas. I can't wait. It is weird, no doubt.
Yeah.
All right, we ready?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Hey, welcome to I Want to Be Your Canary. This is a Final Fantasy podcast. My name is Cullen, and with me today, as always, are my two good friends, Mr. Ross
Hello.
and Mr. Scooter.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, we are kind of feel like we've been on this Final Fantasy VII remake thing for a while now, and I'm excited to kind of move away from it.
Yeah, we've had our fill. We need to branch out a little bit, diversify.
I'm ready to jump off the bandwagon.
Yeah, well, the bandwagon's always there for you to jump back on if you ever need it. That's the beautiful thing about it.
It is funny that we're jumping off it, and like right now, I'm literally playing Final Fantasy VII, the original. So I'm not really jumping off the bandwagon. But let's just pretend like I am.
Well, like you said though, you got to diversify.
Exactly.
So, well,
Yeah.
good. Here we are, ready to
Here we are.
diversify. What are we talking
Exactly.
about today?
Battle systems and how great they are, and how some aren't so great. But we'll get into that later.
Oh, we will. Scooter, do you want to start us off with a little bit of some self-promotion? Maybe, what's our Twitter handle?
Oh, geez. What is our Twitter handle, Ross? Do you know what it is?
It starts with Canary
It does.
and ends with podcast.
It does. I think that's the handle.
Yeah.
Hit us up, everybody, at Canary Podcast on the Twitters. Cullen will respond within seconds flat, I hear, is the rumor.
True.
Yeah, it's good to be in touch with everybody, see the community interaction going. We are also going to be working on a live YouTube page sometime in the future. It might be happening.
I like that.
And what else?
Just a quick question. Was that a test to see if I actually knew our Twitter handle?
Yeah,
Okay, good. I passed.
yeah.
Well,
Excellent.
I figured you've been in academia for so long that tests are right up your alley, my dude.
Absolutely. No, I'm a great test taker.
Congratulations. Now you get your real degree.
Exactly.
That was a test from the head departments of Seattle U to see if you actually get your degree, and you do. So congratulations.
Excellent.
They're gonna
Cool.
mail it.
Thank you.
Let's see what else. Okay, today, the battle systems. I'll run down quickly. What it is. It's the majority of the meat of the games that we play in this series, right? Most of the time throughout the story, you're going to have to be battling stuff to progress, and the way that the gameplay itself has changed over the years through these games has been pretty interesting. So there's about 3 or 4 major systems that we're going to go over, if I'm not mistaken, Colin. And
I do believe you are correct.
and then kind of run over what they are. So yeah.
Well, let me ask this. Are the battle systems the most important or most defining aspect of Final Fantasies?
When you speak in absolutes like that, it's really easy to disagree. But let me think about that for a second. The most defining aspect, I think it might be. If you really think about it, Final Fantasy VII, Materia, Final Fantasy VIII, Junction. Even though both those are active time battle systems, those niches, if you will, do define those individual Final Fantasies. What do you think, Colin, Scooter?
Scooter, go ahead.
Oh, jeez. Okay, well, I was going to save my analogy for later, but I think these games are kind of like an onion. You need all those layers, and the battle system is definitely probably one of the biggest layers, maybe right after the pretty packaging that you peel off, or I don't know. It's so crucial. It's hard to say no, but I don't think it's defining, because there have been other games out there that have done similar stuff.
And I guess
Very
the way I looked at it, it's not necessarily defining in like it's original or it's never been done before or it's totally unique, but the way the battle system is implemented within each individual Final Fantasy really defines
That Final Fantasy.
So
agree.
like the way
Yeah.
you and Colin, because I have not played Final Fantasy 1, the way you and Colin talked about Final Fantasy 1, how it was unrelenting and it was extremely difficult
Fun.
unbalanced magic system. I think that kind of defined the game for you. When
Yeah.
you were telling me about Final Fantasy 1, that's what I took away from it.
Yeah,
was
no,
the battle system.
and I think anybody that's played it would agree, right, Colin? Like, you went through the original too. Oh, there's dogs in the other room, I guess. So,
No, that was the door. Sorry.
oh, that's all good.
Go ahead. Keep going.
Well, I was just going to say, Ross is kind of hitting the nail on the head there with number 1, at least. That is a rather defining element of Final Fantasy 1 was the battle system and really how much time you had to sink into it.
Yeah, and I would say that I've always probably more defined the series based on the battle systems themselves. Now, the battle systems have changed over time, and the series has still remained good, and it's still, you can really tell a Final Fantasy from another JRPG, not just based on the battle system. So in some aspects where it is super, super defining for a series, I started this, when I asked this question, I thought, well, absolutely, it's very defining. It very much defines the series. But, well, you take a look and it's like, well, 12 and 15 and Tactics, those are all very different battle systems than the original one. So maybe it's not as defining as I thought. But when I think of turn-based battle systems, I do think of Final Fantasy. So maybe it's the other way around. Maybe it's Final Fantasy really defines JRPG battle systems in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's not the first to do it.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I think with the scale of these games and the the audience that has received them, it's kind of hard to say anything against that. Yeah, but I do agree with Ross though. I think that the game itself is more. Each one is defined by its own battle system within it. So, on that note, should we run down them, Colin, or how do you want to tackle this?
Yeah, we can run down.
Take a little jog.
Yeah, let's a leisurely jog through the battle systems.
Okay. Was that an invitation for me to begin?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure. Do I need to write a letter with a little stamp on it, or?
It'd be nice.
Oh wow,
I haven't gotten a letter in a while.
Okay,
Actually, my grandma sends me letters.
she's sweet.
Yeah. So I've spent some time looking at the different battle systems, and you play them, and there's really, I've broken it down into 3 different categories. The first one is turn-based, and that is active turn-based or the standard 1-to-1. I kind of grouped those together. And really, the games that have done that are, 1 through 10 have all been
More or less.
turn-based.
Yeah.
So
I guess. Yeah.
some sort of standard 1-to-1, you go, I go, the active time battle where it's like, well, if you wait too long, you're going to get hurt. So you need to kind of make a decision. So that was the turn-based. And that's what, when I think of Final Fantasy, I do really think of those types of battles. That's the stuff that I really think of when I think of Final Fantasy, especially in, defined Final Fantasy. That's kind of like the quintessential Final Fantasy thing right there for me. So that's turn-based, and that's standard and ATB. The next one is what I call faux turn-based, where after Final Fantasy 11 did its MMO thing, they really brought that system and put it into 12. And even though it is turn-based because you have to wait a certain amount of time before your character is going to act, and then the other person acts, so on and so forth, it's, even though it is turn-based, it doesn't really feel like it is. so that's why I call it faux turn-based. And 11 and 14 both do that. And I feel like that's pretty natural because they were MMORPGs, and they were, when 11 came out, it was kind of in the height of the WoW era. And so that just worked well with that. And they did that, like I said, with 12. And the last one, and I'm not really giving a whole lot of details on these because I feel we talk about them individually.
Yeah, we'll go over it.
The last one is active. And that's what you really see in Final Fantasy 15, and probably what we're going to be seeing more so in Final Fantasy 7 Remake. And that's kind of more of that button mash. That's more of the Diablo, the Kingdom Hearts, that kind of battle system. So those are the three that I break it down into, and I probably should say I put tactics in turn-based as well, because it very much is. It's very different, but it's absolutely turn-based.
As a battle system and as a game, well, not as a story in the game, but as a game, it almost feels outside of the series. You know what I mean? But the story is amazing, and I think it holds. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. I like that rundown, man. That was. That's pretty much what I had in my old notes too. Don't have much to add to it, Ross.
The only thing, and I think we're going to dive into, you already alluded to this, Colin, but obviously even when we were talking about turn-based in the ATP system, there's obviously unique differences Final Fantasy to Final Fantasy in the series. And we already talked about it earlier, whether it's the junction system or the materia system, or just even evolution. I mean, like going from Final Fantasy 1 to Final Fantasy 2 to Final Fantasy 3, there's very significant differences in the evolution of the turn-based battle system.
Yeah, and you slowly, especially in those early ones, you slowly see it kind of evolve. I think, Colin, you put down here on our notes that number 3 was the first use of summons in the series, which did change a portion of how you were, going to plan your attacks and everything. And then after that, it moved quickly into the active time battle where you're forced to make choices quickly. Otherwise, like you said, you're going to get hit and hurt. So,
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to jump on Ross's point, I think you're right, Ross, in that even though, you go from 1 to 10 and it all looks the same, it all looks very similar, it all looks very Final Fantasy. There are a lot of, whether they're small changes or big changes, that are going to greatly impact the game. And that's so obvious, if you take a look at the difference between a battle system like 10 or 7 or even 4 and compare it to 1. Scooter's going to be able to speak to this, that the battle system in 1 is just a grind, almost to the point where it's not even fun.
Yeah, well, you're not looking forward to the next time that screen loads, because, man, it loaded a bunch.
And not only that, but like the balance of the battle system. So totally unbalanced magic system. Mages were pretty underpowered, weren't they?
Early in that game, everything was unbalanced early on in that game.
And then the fact that summons didn't even become a part of the series until Final Fantasy 3. I mean, just think about if summons had never been included into the Final Fantasy series, where would the battle systems be now?
Right.
I mean,
that's definitely a defining moment, or part of this series.
Yeah,
especially in the battle system and the story too now. So,
yeah, the evolution of the system within the system, if you will, has shown that you can take something and change it slightly and make slight changes and make huge differences. So,
for sure.
With all of these, it's the classic, screen, cutscene, screen fades in, a couple camera angles, maybe, if, in the PlayStation games, you do your battle, you got your menu. Okay. I want to do this. Okay. Okay. Let's see here. Black magic, go down, fire 2, select. Okay. Not this enemy, this enemy. Okay. This enemy. But you can make those small changes and just have such a drastic difference in the game. I think Materia did a great job of that. I think in Final Fantasy VI it did a great job of that in the way that, like we're talking about, summons helped, and this was maybe just a different beast in itself, but summons helped you learn different magic. So
For sure.
the draw system, even though that wasn't extremely popular, it was, hey, how can we do something very different in this same battle system?
Hmm.
So a lot of differences in those. What are some of, when you guys take a look back on some of these Final Fantasies, especially with the active turn-based, or excuse me, in this turn-based plethora or range that we're talking about, what are some of the things that jump out to you guys as, wow, that was a really awesome addition that they added? I know, Ross, you said summons, but what are some of those things that you go, man, they just did a really good job, and that was a really insightful and quality add?
I'm gonna let you go first, Ross.
I'm looking through my list, trying to think in the timeline where it was like there's a pivot. Because I think the first few Final Fantasy it was just the basic evolution of that turn-based active time battle system. But at a certain point, it started being ATB plus something else. I think you can make an argument that at Tactics, that was kind of, I don't know, the incorporation of the job system. It kind of like opened the door to just so many other things. And obviously Final Fantasy wasn't the first one to come up with that type of flavor, if you will. I mean, obviously Final Fantasy Tactics borrowed a lot of ideas and innovation from Ogre Tactics. And it was the team that brought us Ogre Tactics. So can't say that Final Fantasy was originally the creators of that system. But then from there on, I mean, going to Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VIII, it's ATB plus materia, ATB plus junction system. Going to Final Fantasy IX, ATB plus equipment skills. So it just became, I don't want to say complicated because it wasn't complicated in the delivery, but maybe greater complexity while still appearing simple to the player. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I think they were all just a little bit different flavor, of the same thing. Different spices on the same cake, or whatever you want to call it.
Spices on the same cake. How do you make cake?
Do you not use spices in your cake? I don't make cake.
I'm not a baker, so maybe I'm making cake wrong.
And then 10 was drastically different because the ATB was gone. But it still was definitely a turn-based. It almost went backwards in that regard, but it felt new. And then after that, everything changed.
And I like 10. I like 10 as an example, just because going back to Cullen's point, just subtle little changes have a huge impact on the gameplay. So still turn-based, but instead of going off of time, the key factor was speed. So the need for speed. So essentially, whichever character was fastest went first.
Well, and the main character benefited a lot from that.
For sure, yeah. So I think it's really interesting what the creators of each of these Final Fantasies have done to incorporate tactics and strategy by just these minute little changes in the gameplay.
Well, I think that, and I know that we talked about this last episode. Ross, you touched on this, how the characters that you get in a lot of these games are the ones that you stick with. And you often play with the same 3 or 4 characters. There's not a whole lot of deviation. In part because in some of these games, it's like, okay, in 7, I got to go down. I got to switch out my party. Who's going to be in it? And it's kind of just a hassle. It's kind of a hassle because then sometimes you're, okay, I'm going to, take my accessories off of, this person. All right, Tifa's got a ribbon on. All right, well, I need to take the ribbon off. I need to put the ribbon on, Barrett, who's in my party now. And it's just kind of a hassle. In Final Fantasy X, the fact that you could just switch characters in and out of battle, I thought that was a great innovation because it allowed you to play characters that maybe you wouldn't play as often because it's like, oh man, I got to do this whole process of going and switching everything out. Well, you didn't have to do that anymore. You could just drop them into battle.
Yeah.
You could use their strengths in battle whenever you needed to, really. And I really like that because I think it made me play characters more who I would otherwise ignore because of their skill set. Maybe it took too long for them to become, really worth it, if you will. It's like, oh, okay, I got some weak characters here. I got some weak enemies. Let me just drop in a low leveled like Kamari or Lulu. Like, you guys can get in on this, get some experience, towards the sphere grid. And so I think that encouraged me to play characters that I would otherwise ignore.
Completely agree. Yep. I would have never, ever in 100 years played Riku had it not been for that battle system in 10. I just wouldn't have played that character.
I'm trying to think. They did similar stuff in even number 6, if I'm not mistaken, where you had to go back because you had a huge party at the end of that game.
Humongous.
And you had to eventually get everybody roughly up there in the levels to complete the game because they all got split up at different parts. So I remember thinking, okay, that's kind of an interesting way to make me play everybody because I definitely wouldn't have. But yeah, number 10, I totally agree. It was a nice way to quickly make every character very needed and useful.
Additionally, you do miss out on a lot of things by not playing certain characters. Like, for instance, like you said, Ross, you wouldn't play Riku as much, who has a steal ability.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of cool stuff that you can steal, and a lot of items that you can use on the battlefield that you're gonna miss if you don't play with that character. So, there's a lot to be said about, well, if I don't play with this person, I miss out on this portion of the game. Made it easily accessible. So even though you may be less wanting to play a certain character, you kind of play them a little bit more. So I think that's what, out of those ones that we just talked about, what some of my favorites are in the turn-based realm. And to a degree, the tactics was also more turn-based and not ATB. And that's, like Scooter said, kind of a different beast. Kind of exists in its own world, I guess.
As a battle system, yeah.
As a battle system, yes, absolutely. Because that story is, unreal.
Yeah. Well, it fits a Final Fantasy universe, but just the battle system is not in line with the rest of them. So that's why they probably didn't give it a number and named it Tactics.
Yeah, right. I wonder what the thought process was there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Ogre Tactics, Final Fantasy Tactics.
It must have been. Let's just try something new.
Probably a very simple,
More conspiracy theories with Ross.
Ooh, I like that.
I don't know if there's a good conspiracy there. I'll dream up something.
Talking about the next one, talking about what I call faux turn based, Scooter, this is like, I feel like more, you're going to be the expert on this one.
The faux turn based, that's going to be after number 10?
Yeah, it's going to be 11, 14, and 12. Kind of that MMO.
Gotcha.
And I know that you've played those a lot. And I want you to tell me.
Not 14.
Not 14. But that's because you played
14.
11. And they're kind of very similar, right?
They're similar from my understanding, but I just never got on board when 14 came out because it just sucked. The battle system in that one was nothing like 11 at the time. It was really weird. It just flopped. So it's all changed now, and I can't speak on it after the Realm Reborn came out or whatever it's called.
Well, Cole and I have both played Realm Reborn, and it still feels like 11 to me.
Okay. Then,
not very different at all. But Scooter, I know 11 is kind of like your jam. So give us the high points of kind of that, what I call faux turn-based for 11.
Well, so when like we all expect in Final Fantasies, when this game came out, we knew it was going to be a huge change because it was going to be active online game. MMO style, and so you can't do turn-based MMO style. That would be basically like couch co-op with your friends on an old Final Fantasy. It just doesn't really make sense. So it was all live action. There's a map you run around, little monsters on it, just kind of there, and you can run up to them and choose to fight them, or you can just run right past them if you don't want to and continue on with the story in the game. It's just like any other modern MMO, I guess, out there in a way. 14 similar, like you guys are saying, and 15. I would put 12 kind of in there too, though.
Oh, I put 12 in there for sure.
Okay. Because 12 came out a little late in the game around the PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3 cycle of the two consoles. So it was a really late release on the PS2, but they made it a sort of Final Fantasy 11 live, feel where you zone into a large area. There's monsters running around, and you can choose to engage them, or you can choose to be passive and run right by them. And when you engage them, I should mention that there's no input command for you to choose your turn. It's all kind of flowing, and it all goes, and your team all does their own thing because you've given them instructions before you've started the battle. So I think that kind of covers those ones. 15, we're gonna leave that out of this, right?
Yeah, we'll talk about that here in a bit. I got some.
Yeah.
I got some questions for you about that type of battle, and we're going to talk about 12 a little bit in its own because it has to deal with gambits, and that's an interesting thing. But because you are in those other games that we've talked about previously, you are not really able to avoid battle. Battle finds you, and you can flee, you can run away, but it's still kind of a hassle. Does the format for games like 11, 12, and 14, does that turn the game into less of a battle mechanic driven game and more into a story driven game? Because you can really run around those things. Now you're going to need the experience and stuff like that, and obviously that the fighting part is a huge component. But does that turn those games into more of a story driven game rather than a battle driven game?
You're asking me, right?
Yes, sir.
I think it's that onion analogy. It could, in a way, maybe change the order of the layer of the onion, but you're still going to have to do the battle system, like you said, because you're going to have boss fights. You're going to have to collect experience points or gear or whatever it may be. Maybe that was their goal, was to target the game at more of a casual audience. So much so that you don't have to do battles. I don't know.
I would say no, based off of my experience with both of those games, and that reason being, just you are almost required to involve yourself with consuming and cumbersome grinding, because there's really not a whole lot of solo leveling. You're really dependent upon the team dynamics in both 11 and 14 if you really want to go far in the story.
Not anymore.
Not anymore?
Not in 11. Sorry,
Not 11?
I can't speak for 14, but 11 is entirely soloable now.
So 11, okay, so 11's different now, but 14, I believe it's still to really even access limit breaks, I think you need to have the proper team dynamics.
I don't know. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, Cullen might be
One of our listeners can call us out on that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that's still the case even for a Realm Reborn.
Yeah. So I think it's, is the game as focused around battle? I still would say absolutely in 11 especially, and 12. I mean, I enjoyed it in 12. It was weird, like you said, if you weren't expecting it though, because it was such a dramatic change from going from 10 to 12. It was just totally not the same kind of game in the battle system. So it threw a lot of us off right away.
No, totally.
Yeah.
It was, and you could see the writing on the wall because you knew that, like you said, it wasn't going to be some Final Fantasy couch co-op. So you knew it was coming, but it was still kind of like, whoa, this Final Fantasy.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely didn't smell like it right away, but then you got, deeper in there and it started to remind you of home a bit, but you know what I mean? Yeah, so I guess that kind of sums up. Any other questions from me on those?
I don't know. I think that it's a good segue into 12 because Final Fantasy 12 was pretty much an offline MMO. In the way that it
felt
played.
like it.
It felt like it.
Yeah, it felt like
the battle system did at least. And I said this in the last episode. I went into 12 not knowing that. I wanted Final Fantasy as I knew Final Fantasy, in particular with the battle system being the way that it is in all of the other ones. And so I said, okay, this is going to be like those. And it wasn't. And I hated it. And it took me some time and I've come around since. But the offline MMO, because you're not playing with people online who have their real own ideas of what to do, you're able to set a gambit system. And Ross, tell us about the gambit system.
Oh man, it's been so long since I've played. You're going to do a much better job of speaking to it than I will. I will butcher it. So how about you take the reins on this one, my friend?
All right. Or Scooter, do you want to?
Nope.
All right.
You literally just played this one.
I did. Well, yeah. So the gambit system essentially is a set of parameters that you can pre-program your fellow characters to follow so that a battle kind of goes the way that you want to. A gambit might include and it goes in order. So you have the things that are most important are going to be actually at the kind of that base level. Like if all things are okay, then just attack. However, if somebody's HP goes below 30% of their full HP value, give them a potion. Oh, there's a monster that is susceptible to fire attacks, cast fire on them. So you're able to kind of set up your characters to react in certain situations, which is kind of cool, but it was always kind of a hassle. It's always kind of a hassle to do, and I just it even though it was intuitive and it really made you prioritize the things that you wanted in battle to happen. Oh, somebody is you're in battle, cast haste on this person right away. Somebody is poisoned, cast Azuna or Panacea or whatever it is in that game. But I felt like they were just trying to make up for the ability to control all characters like you do in the turn-based ones, and I didn't feel it.
It's funny because I think it was a game before its time. Because you speak to it now, you've revisited it, and your whole perception of the game has changed. And I think, in what I've read online, a lot of people that have replayed 12 after the fact have had a very similar experience. And I think when I think of 12 and the gambit system and being able to pre-program your characters that are not the main character that you're controlling, and having them say cast haste in response to this or throw out a potion when their health drops below whatever percentage, I think of games like Dot Hack or even Kingdom Hearts that are much further out in the future. Obviously the most recent Kingdom Hearts just came out. I think is just a game before its time. So I wonder if 12 had not been released at the transition from PS2 to PS3 and that transition from offline to online.
Yeah, there was a lot of weirdness because it was, like you said, also the PS2 to PS3 release. And so you were buying a game on an old console that had worse graphics, and you were already disappointed going in with that mindset. And so I don't know, I've played it again. I never minded the gambit system because it just felt like I was playing an offline version of 11 at the time for me, so it was quick and easy. I just set my team up as I wanted them and cruised on through the game.
It just didn't land for me at the time. I remember having played 11, and you and I, Scooter, were really far into 11 when it was out, and then we were playing other games online at that time. It was just that's when it started really just
online was
Online
happening.
was happening.
Yeah,
That was
and
the thing.
It really, that's what was happening.
And it was like, why is this game pretending to be online when it's an offline
I do
game?
remember thinking that. I do remember thinking, boy, it's like .hack, where that game isn't afraid to tell you, hey, we're just faking it all the way through. We're faking the internet. We're faking, the online aspect. But they try and make it feel, and it kind of does.
God, that was
but
a cool game.
the 12 just you could tell they,
But 12 still came out, I mean, at least a year or a few years before .hack even did.
I don't know.
So I
on
think
that,
it just,
yeah.
was I think I would have appreciated it more if it, .hack was a PS3 game.
It was.
Yeah.
Really?
No, I don't know.
Yeah.
There was a lot of them. I don't know when the original hacks came out. I'm
Yeah,
sure
the first one was
some of the
PS2.
stories and stuff. I don't know, but
Or maybe I'm getting my facts wrong now.
Ross, you
It
never
was,
get your facts
I'm thinking
wrong.
of the other .hack.
red alert. Ross got a fact wrong. Everybody.
I got a fact wrong. First fact ever in
Gonna
my
have a
life that
red
I've
button
gotten
right
wrong.
here on the desk that you slam,
All
Colin,
right.
and then
To go back really quick before we move on from this, I always felt like maybe, I don't know, maybe this is thinking too deep into it, but I feel like in the games like 11, 14, and 12, and even 15 to this matter,
to some extent.
is you are kind of taking away from some of the art and artists that are creating the cinematic, show that is, casting Bolt or, casting whatever haste, using an item, what those animations look like, because you don't get to fully appreciate those. And that's the big thing that I felt like I missed out on from having to do that faux turn-based system is I didn't get to see everybody's little, like, how they did things. I remember in Final Fantasy IV, everybody kind of, if they cast a spell, they had this little motion that they would do, or,
yeah.
and I really
remember
liked that.
yeah.
And it was super simple, but I remember like imitating all those as a kid. I just thought they were so
out on the
cool.
playground.
And I feel like you missed
just
out
see
on
you-
that because everything's happening at once. You don't get the
yeah.
experience to enjoy it.
I 100% understand what you're saying. Simpler times, simpler things. I feel like you could say that about anything in all of these games now, though. You're gonna miss out on the details of the I don't know, textures or the grass or you know, stuff like that, or you're gonna miss out on some story lines of dialogue because they're probably like two books worth of, you know, lines to go through now, and these like 15 and stuff, and we're gonna overlook a lot of things. But I do get what you're saying with the active style, with, you know, 15 and 14, 12, all that. It does become kind of a cluster, you know, thing. Everything just kind of jumbles together on the screen at times, and you really don't know what's going on, or you just can't appreciate those cool, you know, spells and animations like you're saying, because sometimes when you cast Flare, it is a lot of fun to watch.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
Can we just back up for 1 second and just acknowledge how wrong I was? Okay, so
Oh, this is great.
this is bad. So Dot Hack Infection, the first of the original 4-part game, 2002.
Yeah.
12, Final Fantasy 12, 2006.
4
Even
years.
even like if I was trying to make the argument that I was thinking of the other Dot Hack GU,
Yeah.
that came out 2006 as well for the PlayStation 2.
Hey.
It's okay.
low, man.
It's okay, Ross.
Disregard.
Guess what? You just got out of school. You know, you've been relaxing. You're letting some
That
brain
is the
cells
only thing
go.
I've ever gotten
Let it
wrong
go,
in my
man.
life. So
You're good.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing, and we're not going to forget.
we're not going to worry about it either.
We are.
No, but Dot Hack
feel
is a
guilty.
fun one.
The listener, oh, I love Dot Hack.
Yeah. We'll have to do a show on that eventually.
Yep. Yeah.
Chris, if you're listening, give Ross a hard time on Twitter, would you?
Love it.
Oof.
Love it. That's good shout out. Excuse me.
Carry on.
All right. Okay. What else is there that we need to talk about in the faux turn based before we move on to active?
So active is we're gonna 15 and such, right?
15 and what we
Right.
assume.
Okay, so
remake is.
all I would say with the faux turn-based stuff, just to kind of sum it up, is it does change the way that you kind of explore the game more than anything in my mind. The world map becomes much more involved, and you're more immersed in the world map because you kind of have to be if you're doing these open map battle systems. I like it for that. There's a lot that I don't like about it too, but it was an interesting way how they did it, kind of the faux MMO stuff. But yeah, now on to the other. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not excited about it.
So 15 and what it looks like 7 is going to be is kind of that Kingdom Hearts Diablo, button masher, hit this button, swing, sprint, swing, use a spell, kind of a hotkey, but it's very active in its presentation. You are constantly moving. You are attacking at will. You're not waiting really for anything or anyone. Is it the future?
It is for now.
Isn't that the present then?
Yeah.
We're getting real meta here. Is it the future? I want to say no, but I think I'm wrong.
Yeah. No, I don't think attention spans and I don't think backwards is the way. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see another turn-based from this. The number of, how Final Fantasy releases in numbers. I don't think we're going to see number 16 or 17 be turn-based.
And I don't think it'll be turn-based necessarily, but I think I hope, I don't know, I don't think yet, but I hope there's going to be an evolution to the real-time battle system, active battle system that allows for more strategy and tactical work, which I'm hoping that's what the 7 remake does for us, but we'll see here.
Me too.
Because the button mashing part, I mean, ugh.
Mm-hmm. Colin, when you played 15,
Yep.
and Ross, you too, so you threw the question to me, and you said the same thing about when you played 12. Did you go into it knowing that it was going to be like it is, and did you go into it, I guess, how was your initial reaction to it?
My initial reaction to it, because I went into it with a more open mind, I knew what I was getting myself into. There was no mystery that Final Fantasy 15 was not going to be cutscene in, turn-based battle, celebrate, cutscene out. I knew it wasn't going to be that, so I didn't expect that. And I said, well, you know what? I'm just gonna enjoy it, and I'm gonna accept the changes as they come. And I enjoyed it. I really did. I thought they did some really cool stuff with the battle system was fun. And yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. It was a good game. I do wish that it wasn't an active battle system, but what am I going to do? It is.
Mm-hmm.
So I enjoyed that game for even despite that.
Ross?
For me, I when 15 came out, I was just excited that it wasn't another iteration of Final Fantasy 13. So I wasn't even considering the real time battle system.
That's funny.
For me, I don't know. I mean, I'm a big Kingdom Hearts guy, as you guys know.
Yeah.
So I guess I was more willing to accept the button mashingness of it, but it's not my favorite. I don't know. I enjoyed it, but I would like to see some evolution of that battle system for sure. Definitely not my favorite.
I think for me, I went into it also knowing that it wasn't going to be turn-based, number one, but I didn't know exactly what it was going to feel like, how to play it. Felt fluid, felt fast, felt Kingdom Hearts. I didn't mind that, but it's not my, I guess it's just not my flavor of Final Fantasy, because I guess when I think of Final Fantasy, I think of those harder strategic battles. This game, I do not remember strategizing any battle or boss battle or anything. You just go in and mash them, and if you can figure out how to stun enemies in that game, there's no enemy you can't take out. So, yeah, I think, Colin, for me, in that onion analogy, again, that layer is somewhere buried deep down inside this game. There's some better layers of this game than the battle system for me anyway. But I think that it is a decent foundation for them to evolve. I hope with 7 remake. I think that from what we've been hearing, that we're all going to get more of that the slow mo. I think what the slow mo is going to do for us is it's going to give us that ability to choose, have a larger influence on the battle outcome rather than just holding down X.
Yeah, and I think that's important for another reason too. And Colin already brought this up in regards to Final Fantasy X. For me, when I was playing 15, because it was so button mashy and so not strategy or tactical at all, I cared less about the characters.
Yeah. No, and I understand because you're not dying too often, at least in that game for me.
Yeah, like
I don't know if I did.
Yeah, you don't die and like, I mean, I can name off the characters from Final Fantasy 15, but it's not like rapid fire. Like,
yeah.
It's like Ignis, Gladiolus, and so I mean, each one there, it wasn't necessarily a tactical purpose to utilize them. Like in Final Fantasy X, like if you want to steal something, you're using Riku. If you want to use magic, you're using Lulu.
Right. They had some specialties, mostly for your limit breaks more than anything.
Yeah.
Other than that, they were more or less just DPS kind of, hit 'em up slashers. I think I enjoyed more their interactions in the car and around the campfire than I did it in the battle system.
That's the onion that you talk about.
It's just put that piece a little bit further into it, and the game itself is fun to play overall. It's definitely not, I think we all agreed it's not our favorite or up there at all, but it's a fun game to play and it looks amazing.
Yeah, it looks amazing, but like if I ask myself this question to answer honestly, will I ever replay it? Answer's probably no.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm playing Final Fantasy VII right now for like the 4th time.
Yeah, no, the only reason I'd go back and play 15 is to visit some of the cities that they made in it again. Because they were, it's just so well rendered and thought out, kind of like a Grand Theft Auto world where you can just find new things all
That's
the time.
true.
But other than that, would I play it for the story? No, because but all right, sorry, battle system.
No, I mean, it's all valid points. I think that it is a good segue into moving to this question, since we know that Square Enix has taken Final Fantasy VII, which is an active, in the ATB system, and it has taken it and said, okay, we're going to redo this game that everybody loves, and this has been so, like people are going to go crazy when they do this, and we're going to change the battle system. Can we surmise from that maybe turn-based is dead, and that's Final Fantasy is going to be going the way of active from here on out?
Ross, you go for it on that one, man, because you were wrong once today. You only get to be wrong once.
No, and I'll probably never be wrong again. So don't worry about it, listeners. It's all good. Everything is good in the hood. I think turn-based is dead. I think just because we have to acknowledge that we're not the primary audience anymore. I mean, if Square Enix wants to capture that young audience and continue to be sustainable and grow their brand, it's not us that are worried about.
Yeah,
it's the people. It's the kids that are playing Fortnite.
Yeah. No,
or Apex or whatever else.
Yeah. How do we get them off that onto our game? We got to change the battle system to make it more appealing for that, audience. And Kingdom Hearts, I mean, it's hit a pretty few good home runs, hasn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so then if that is, going to aim at the younger audience, then what better way than to bring the battle system over from that game? It's familiar to everybody doing that. It's a great strategy. I just think we're going to see that kind of follow throughout the future is an evolution of these new systems. I'm not excited about it.
Here's what I think. And this is kind of some guesswork, but it's going to take I don't think turn-based is dead. And in part because I don't think that turn-based is dead is because take a look at this recent success of Octopath Traveler. How many copies that sold, what rave reviews it got, and that right there tells me that RPGs and JRPGs that have turn-based battle systems are very much alive. I think what's going to happen is I think Nintendo is going to have to revive it. I think that PlayStation and Xbox, those companies that gear their games towards those systems are going to do more of the active stuff, and we're going to see less turn-based there. But I think it's going to come back to Nintendo and where it all started. And I think that Nintendo is going to somehow going to revive turn-based battles, and they're going to do a good job of it.
They're going to do a great job of it, Colin.
No,
Yeah.
that's a really good point, Colin. I didn't even think about that because I mean, for Nintendo, it's like for them, it's like, hey, it's not that we're reviving turn-based battle systems. For us, it's never gone away. I mean, look at their Pokemon franchise. I mean, as far as I know, that's all turn-based, and then Sword and Shield will also be turn-based.
And their system itself is very portable to have a quick turn-based game, 5 minutes on the bus here, 5 minutes between class here,
Yeah.
It would work well on that system.
Yeah.
It could. The game you're talking about is out on Switch, isn't it?
Octopath Traveler?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep, it sure is. And Steam.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, well, if it works for Square, it looks like they sold over 1.5 million copies since it came out in March.
And here's
So that's-
here's another thing, Scooter. No DLCs, no subscription-based packaging.
Hey,
It's
you
a
don't have to
straight-
sell me on it,
No.
man. You sold me
Music
a
to my ears.
long time ago. It's on the list. I'm just waiting for it to go on sale because, I think the $60 price tag is just. I just like to wait for sales. That's all. It's summer sales coming on Steam soon, man. So I'm just gonna wait.
I hope so. I'm 90 hours into that game.
Oof,
and
nice.
so yeah, you get your money's worth for such a easy 16-bit graphic game. It's a phenomenal game.
Classic turn-based. There you go.
But I think games like that are going to help I think it's going to help jumpstart the turn-based bit again. That's my prediction.
Turn-based revolution.
Turn-based
Let's
revolution. I like it.
If just a bunch of Octopath Traveler games got developed, I wouldn't be upset.
No, you wouldn't. You would not.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic one. So let's end this like this. What's your favorite of all of the systems? What's your favorite battle system that God, you just love getting into? And just give me one reason why.
I've thought about this one, this question, even though we didn't discuss this prior to. I've thought about this question all day. Like, what is my favorite battle system? And I don't know if I've really chosen one.
I could list one real quick, but it's not for the right reason.
It's never for the right reasons.
Number 9, because of the music. It's my favorite battle music by far.
There you go. Totally valid reason.
It's like, yes, here we go. And the finale to it, all of it. I love the music in that one for the battle. Yeah.
I think that's a totally valid reason to like. That's one of the reasons that I love 4 is because the boss battle music and the battle music and the battle with the 4 fiends.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think for me, if I really had to choose, and I hate saying this because I hate any answer that this is the answer for.
Absolutes, Ross.
For a Final Fantasy question, I hate saying Final Fantasy 7 because it's so cliche no matter what the question is.
But the materia ability, the way you can change it and
Materia, this is why. So I'll explain why, because I'm sure there's some people rolling their eyes out there, and it's well deserved. You should be rolling your eyes for this answer. But in replaying it right now, just the complexity and also the simplicity of the materia system, I think, is brilliant. I think in Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy VIII, the battle systems are very similar in the way that you can utilize the junction and the materia systems. They can both be very easily abused by skillful players.
right.
But I think
Enemy skill.
yeah, but I think when you think about materia, it's so basic. You're just combining these individual skills, but then the amount of variations to those combinations and the individuality that you can have in those combinations, I think, is really powerful for player individuality, and you kind of happen upon some very fun combinations like counter and steel or counter and Phoenix that breaks the game. But it also allows you to be a more defensive player or more of an offensive player. I think, and it's not like you're changing around all that much. It's just switching a materia slot to another materia slot.
Especially even compared to number 8, the draw system just didn't feel as personal. You can't personalize it as much.
I hated the draw system.
Yeah, I think a lot of us did. But I 7 had so many options if you really wanted to, and it had that sense of accomplishment of when you finally get that 5 stars on all materia, and it's the master materia or whatever. I forget how that worked exactly, but I enjoyed that piece too.
Was a good one. I think my favorite is probably, which is funny because it's not even, I say that I like the scene in, scene out battle, celebration, everything. It's got to be tactics. I just love the way that tactics works. I mean, it's an easily abused system, but man, do I love it.
But it's.
You guys gonna
Who doesn't love tactics?
I was gonna say that it is such a fun, the battle system is so unique in that one. It's
Oh, that's a good one. 7 is good too. I mean, it was so next gen at that time, and just such a, it really was just a cinematic treat. Just to watch. It's like, oh my goodness, this looks so good.
Especially,
we kind of felt that with 15. But.
Yeah, no, but especially number 7, and that's another thing is and it blew my mind when you got into the battle after that screen load, your characters looked amazing. They didn't have blocky arms, they didn't have square heads, they were fully rendered, and they looked like they should. And that alone, I got excited to go into battle because of that, in that game.
Another thing about 7 that I love, I love and I also hate, that I think a lot of players also hate, and I like to think of it as like the game developers knew what they had in Final Fantasy 7, and we're like, we're going to make sure people really appreciate how much innovation is in this game. Making the summons and spells unskippable. It's like you will watch Knights of the Round all the way through every time. If you want to cast it, you are going to watch the whole thing and appreciate the work that we've put into this.
And Neo Bahamut, all of it.
Yeah.
And well deserved. We deserve to watch all of it.
You deserve it. You will have it, and you will like it.
Yep. I guess we don't deserve it, but they deserve to have us watch it.
Yes.
How about that?
Yeah.
There you go. Well, thank you to all of you creators out there listening to us, which I'm sure we have many.
Most likely. Yeah.
Well, if there ever are or will be in the future, seriously, thank all of you for making these games.
Yes, you're awesome. We appreciate that. So, I think that wraps it up, boys.
Indeed.
What do you think?
I think that we did a beautiful job.
10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Every time.
10 out of 10. Out of 100 nobles, 100 were impressed.
Every time.
Oh, yeah, I knew that was coming. All right. Well, that being said, that's going to conclude our show. Like we said earlier, please jump on to our social media channels right now. We try and upkeep the Twitter at Canary Podcast. And we're always looking for different show ideas. I mean, we have a plethora of ones that we want to do. But if somebody says, hey, you should really take a look at this, I would have no hesitation to doing that. So
no qualms.
Always enjoyed the interaction. Yep. Always enjoy the interactions. Always enjoy the positive comments that we get. So thank you to everybody out there. Any parting words, boys?
Just that it's been real.
It's been fun.
It's been real fun.
Nice. The cross country boys are doing that now.
Excellent.
Oh, you know it. All right. Well, thanks guys for listening. We appreciate it. And we will see you next time.
Peace out.